Cause number 1862491. We, the jury, find the defendant, Gerald Goines, guilty of the felony murder as charged, signed by the foreperson of the grand jury.
After nearly 5 years of waiting, the families of Regina Nicholas and Dennis Tuttle have received a measure of justice for the loss of their loved ones. The guilty verdict was an overdue reckoning for disgraced former HPD detective Gerald Goines, who lied to a judge to obtain a search warrant, falsely claiming the couple sold heroin to an informant. Nicholas and Tuttle were both shot dead in the subsequent botched no-knock raid, which also left 4 police officers wounded. The trial has now entered the punishment phase, with Goines facing a potential life sentence. Panel, the fact that this innocent couple was murdered and then falsely and brutally demonized in the immediate aftermath of this tragedy represents one of the darkest hours in the deeply checkered history of the Houston Police Department. Chris, I'm going to start with you on this.
So, you know, this case lasted a very long time because it was disrupted again by the pandemic. That a lot of cases that we're still catching up from. This case is really one of the harshest cases that we've seen in Harris County in a very long time. And what's going to come out in punishment is all of the prior bad acts that this detective officer Goines, Mr. Goines, has engaged in for a very, very long time. And the punishment hearing is going to be very hard to deal with for a lot of people.
I want to go to Tamar really quickly here because you know something about those previous bad acts.
Yes, so it was, you know, and my condolences again to the families of these individuals from the depths of my soul, because when this happened, the only people who were shocked were the people who lived by you and others who lived around you. If you lived in 3rd Ward, 5th Ward, and you were well aware of his behavior. The minimum I think that he killed prior to them was over 7, most of them being African American, and he got nothing. So this sentencing was a round of applause for many families who have suffered, who went to jail on phony evidence, who got beat up for nothing, who just dogged out by this guy. So yes, good riddance of bad rubbish. Hurry up and get his ass in jail, lock him up.
Gary, 30 seconds.
Well, it's interesting that the decision was made to go to the jury, because in these kind of cases, and this is high profile, I think the judge probably was well aware of Goines' history, but the jury is not. So they're going to hear all these prior bad acts, and when they hear that, I don't think it's going to be real pretty in terms of what they're going to end up sentencing him. I think he's got a real chance of getting a life sentence. So that was something I would not have done. I wouldn't have advised it, nor would Chris, in that situation. And yeah, it's a relief that this finally has happened. And he was out of control. But you know, the other thing that's interesting we don't talk about is who loosened the reins on him to allow him to be out of control for all those years, and when are they going to take and be accounted for?
Bob Price, 30 seconds.
I remember covering the story live when it happened. My wife, Lana Shadwick, was on the scene feeding me photos and information, and the story that came out that day was not the story that we heard this week in court. There was a giant cover-up of what happened there. Things went sideways, and it was a horrific situation. Like you, I can't imagine why this defense attorney, or team of defense attorneys in this case, recommended that he take sentencing by jury.
We don't know that. They may have told him to go to the judge, and he decided
too.
that.
But yeah, some clients are pretty hard-headed about certain things.
They are.
But he's going to get fried by this jury.
Final word to you, Paul, about 30 seconds.
I think accountability is so important. What's great about what we're seeing here in this case is that the public is looking at a set of facts and is making a decision not based on the badge, but based on the data that's in front of them. I'm really excited that this is happening, and you know, my condolences to the families.
Okay, leaving it there.